about it, my friend. Beginnings with Bernice begins. Why now? Why now? Nicole, how many times have you been to space?
Well, I think I consider myself in space all the time since we live on a planet, right? Spaceship Earth, baby. But I got to travel on a spaceship twice to space and spend over 100 days up there.
How many days?
It was 104.
When you saw Earth, your heart just melt.
You know, the first time I looked out the window and saw Earth from space was right after we got to space, right after we launched. So your heart is definitely pounding then after you just launched on a rocket ship. And then to float up out of your seat, I mean, really like float up and get to the window and be floating and looking out at Earth. Amazing. Amazing. Yes, there you are. You're floating. That's so good.
If there was one word that inside of your body, your heart was screaming to you, what would you say that word would be?
Oh, wow. Well, maybe it was wow, but
wow.
The feeling I had was just really grateful.
Because you got to have this opportunity to see this thing that not everybody gets to see?
Yeah, just to know that I was in this place that was really super special, you know, for sure, that I was with this really great group of people, my crew. We were going to do incredible work while we were there. We all knew that everything that we were going to be doing was going to be about helping improve life on that planet that we were looking out the window at. And then to top it off with floating, you know, I mean, that's...
You can't beat floating.
You can't beat floating.
I mean,
it is wonderful, and to be able to float and look at, just to see your home in a whole new way, that's pretty special. But I think you don't have to go to space to do that, right? I mean, you can look right out your window and be in awe and recognize the wonder that's around you, and just by thinking about the fact that you're on a planet in space.
That's right. And we've kind of got our very own spaceship frontier right here on Earth. When we look at the ocean and you think about how deep it goes and how little anybody has ever seen of it.
Yeah.
If you're interested in exploring big places and learning things that will make a difference, that's one place you can explore. Do you think so, Nicole?
I absolutely agree. And as astronauts, one of the really cool things we get to do to prepare to go live and work in outer space is to live and work in inner space underwater for a little while. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I am freaking out about the aqua. Does it mean that you have met Sylvia Earle?
I have met Sylvia Earle before. She's very cool. Yep.
I want to talk to her someday. Do you hear me, Sylvia?
Yes.
Listen, Nicole, will you tell us a little bit about what the aqua reef space is?
Yeah, so it's the only place like it on Earth. And I'm sure everybody can imagine like something that's the size of a school bus, right?
Totally.
And yeah, so Aquarius, which is the name of this really beautiful school bus sized habitat that's underwater, sits on the ocean floor off the coast of Key Largo, Florida, and it's about 60 feet under. And it's about the size of a school bus. And we go down there. It's like a laboratory, even inside. It's everything, just like your spaceship is in space. It has the place where you're going to sleep, and it has the place where you're going to eat and prepare your food, and where you're going to do your science. And then it has the place in it where you're going to get all your special gear on and go outside and do these really cool scuba dives to explore all of the sea around you. And
is that called a wet porch?
Oh my gosh, Bernice, look at you. That is called a wet porch. Yes, it is.
I am obsessed with the aqua reef space. You just have to know.
Well, maybe we can get you down there one day. I can't promise anything, but we will see what we can do.
All I can do is swim.
Swimming is good. If you're going to be there swimming, knowing how to swim is a good thing.
How do you get down there?
Oh yeah, that's a good question, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Eric, we put on scuba gear. So we put on our mask and our fins and our snorkel and our tanks, and we go down, 60 feet to Aquarius. And then through that wet porch that you mentioned, Bernice, there's this like big hole in the structure, and you swim up into the habitat. And then it's kind of like, when you take a cup and you stick it upside down in the water and the air all stays inside of the cup, but the water is still surrounding it. That's kind of like what Aquarius is this little upside down cup of water. So it's all like air inside. And so you can walk around in your normal clothes inside. And except for that little wet porch area, we try to keep everything else really dry inside there. Yeah. And then there's these big windows like you would have on a ship, these big windows that you can look out and see all of the life around you. Yeah.
What was the most surprising thing that you saw swimming by?
Oh, wow. There was a lot, because to me, it was kind of funny. It was like every time something would swim by and kind of look in at us, I thought, these are the creatures that live there all the time, right? And we're the different ones. So I kept thinking, like, they're looking in and thinking, okay, who's in the aquarium now? Who's visiting in our place? But I'll tell you, the thing that I thought was so neat was we had these two ginormous Goliath grouper that would come by twice a day, once like very early in the morning, just as the sun was rising, and then very like in the evening as the sun was going down. And they were, when I say ginormous, I mean, they were like, their heads were like this big around, and probably 6 feet long at least. And
that's bigger than me.
Yeah. And there was a pair of them that would come by every day, and they would just come by and like hang out by the windows and stuff and look in as we were looking out. And my crew and I, we named them after, I think everybody names them when they're there, but we named them after the two German shepherds that my family had, our two dogs. So we named them Stella and Lucy while we were there.
You found about Stella and Lucy?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm down in the aqua space. Who will swim by today? I look around to see what I can see. Under the water, oh so deep, it's Stella. What's the other one's name?
Lucy.
And you see the groupers who are swimming by to see the human exhibit. Oh, have you seen? They got an astronaut down there. I've never seen an astronaut before. Stella, when you see groupers in space. Groupers in space. Oh, yeah. I was thinking about how neat it must be up in space to look at the oceans and think, whoa, like I'm up high or just a far distance out of the gravity well, but like there's some like anglerfish or bristlemouth down there in the depths who's just as full of pressure but deeper into the gravity well. And it's just interesting. You're on like kind of opposite ends of the spectrum as far as gravity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember being under the ocean and thinking the same thing, like having all of those creatures all around me, and then looking up, like trying to look up through the water into the night sky and imagine what was like orbiting around us too.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were like, oh God, some of my friends are way up there.
Yep.
Far away.
Waiting for that little dot of light. Have you ever put your zip code or your city into the phone? And there's a couple really cool apps. One is called Spot the Station, and the other one is ISS Tracker. And you can put your zip code or your city in there, and it'll tell you when the space station is flying over you. And you can go out and watch this beautiful dot of light move across the sky and know that there's 6 or 7 people on board that little dot of light circling the Earth every 90 minutes.
Jamie, I know you're busy operating me right now, but we have to download the app. Books with Barb.
Hello, everyone. Today, I am so excited to tell you about a wonderful book we have, Astronaut Handbook by Meghan McCarthy. This book will detail all the different kinds of things that astronauts have to do to train to get ready to blast off into space. You should check it out.
Hold on just a second. Okay. There we go. Okay. One enterprising young space, I don't know, I hesitate to say nerd.
That's okay. Nerds rule the world.
I agree. Okay, one enterprising space nerd said, we want to know if there's any new technology with any of those things, eating, drinking, or using the bathroom. Anything new?
Well, they're always trying to develop new technology for all of those things. And let's see, eating, drinking, sleeping. So one of the things like eating is really, really important in space, not just because you want to have good food that you like, right, that tastes good. And they're always working on that. Like, how do we get better food for the astronauts? And when we say better, food that tastes better.
Yeah.
But they are the thing they really, really have to work on, which I hope a lot of the space nerds will think about for what they do in the future as well, is yes. How do we make this food that we want to taste good for the astronauts be really good for them too?
Nutritious.
And yes, like nutritious. And we worry about those same things down here on Earth, right? Anything we're putting in our bodies, hopefully in one way or another, should be good for us too. But in space, where you're doing this really magical thing of floating and effortlessly moving around and just feeling that way in space, it has an effect on your body, right? Where your body figures out stuff like, man, I don't really, to move like this, to float, I don't need bones or muscles anymore to do that. And so our bodies don't waste a lot of energy maintaining our bones and our muscles for us. So we need to not only exercise like 2 hours a day to help really keep them strong, but our food needs to really help us keep our bones and muscles strong too. So lots and lots of technology and science going into how our food can be better and more healthy for us in space. And especially since I know I'm talking like a lot, but I think a lot of these space nerds that are asking these questions, these kids that are excited about this, they're going to be the ones going even further off Earth, right? And they're going to be the ones that are in kind of small spaceships, maybe going to Mars one day, where we don't have a whole like big kitchen or a whole big place to store food on the way to Mars. So we're going to have to figure out, how do you make smaller and smaller food that still tastes good and makes you feel good when you eat it, but is really good for you too.
Well,
there's a lot of science that has to go into that.
Hey, I have another question. Do you want to take a little trip back in time with me?
Okay.
Okay, let's do that little rewind thing where you pretend you're going backwards. Ready? Here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
And we're back.
Here we are, back in your childhood. You are a little kid. Now, what was the very first time that you were like, engineering or science or specifically space?
Well, I think the first time that I ever thought about space was when I watched those Apollo moon landings, which was 50 years ago now, where I have like vivid memory of being with my mom and my dad and my sister and sitting in front of the black and white TV. So technology has changed a lot there. Sitting in front of the black and white TV and watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walk on the moon the first time. That was awesome. And I think I was 6.5 when that happened.
You were.
And yes, and I think even if you're 6 or 7 years old, when you think about somebody walking on the moon, this place that you go out and see every night that seems so far away,
Yes.
it's like, wow, that is just extraordinary. I don't know if I would have known the word extraordinary when I was, but when I think about it now, that's what I think I probably was feeling. That this is just extraordinary that we as humans can do that, right?
Yes.
But it was a long time before I thought about like a job like astronaut or even engineer. I didn't even really know what engineers were until I was getting ready to graduate from high school and trying to figure out, am I going to go to college? What am I going to study? Those kinds of things. But what I knew was that I really loved flying and I wanted to know how things fly. And I had been really, really fortunate. My mom and dad, they always shared what they loved with me and my sisters. And one of those things was flying. And so we spent a lot of time as kids out at the local airport.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I wanted to know how things fly. And that's where I discovered aeronautical engineering.
Wow.
I had no idea what it was before that. And then I figured out, man, if you want to know how airplanes fly, why would you not want to know how rocket ships fly?
Straight to the moon.
Yep.
So, aeronautical engineering is the scientific study of how things fly?
Yep.
Oh, that is so cool. So it took you some time to figure it out. Like, you weren't born being like, I am an astronaut.
Nope. Always thought it was really cool. And then, I figured out that I wanted to know how things fly and, want to know how rocket ships fly. But even then, it took me a while to think about astronaut as something that I might be able to do. It always seemed so cool but it seemed like that's something other special people get to do. Why would they ever pick me? Why, has anything I've done been something they'd want to have as an astronaut? And so very thankful for people in my life that, I think we call them mentors, right? People that
you had people encouraging you.
Yep, and these are the people I think that we discover in our lives that might know a little bit more about us than we know about ourselves, or see things in us that we might not see ourselves, and they just encouraged me to pick up the pen and fill out the application.
What do you think this generation of kids who want to be involved in space exploration and travel, what is it going to be studying? What do you think is on the horizon?
Yeah, wow. So I think there's pretty much anything you could be interested in one way or another. You could study it and it will have some application to what we need to do, what we need to learn about, how we fly in space, how we live in space, how we generate electricity in space, all of those things, how we make food for being in space and grow it once we get there, how we take care of our bodies, all of these things that we're interested in studying about how we live here on Earth are the same kinds of things we're going to need to learn as we travel in space. And there's always going to be little different things, like how do we communicate with each other when we get further and further away from the planet, that kind of technology. How do we...
Using...
Yeah.
Come in, rocket ship.
And then be able to talk to each other right away versus having to wait 20 minutes between the time somebody can answer you, right? Because you're so far away. How do we manage those kinds of things? How do we do art and play music in space? There's certainly musicians and artists that have done things in space. Any puppets? I had a puppet in space named...
You did?
I did, named Harold, who was a giraffe.
It was a giraffe in space, Here was a giraffe in space. He's in space.
But lots of people play musical instruments in space. On the space station right now, there's a keyboard and a guitar and a flute. Yep. And people write poetry and sew and paint and draw and all kinds of things.
Listen, here's a picture of the first musical instrument played in space. And there's some of the cosmonauts who first played acoustic guitar. And there is, her name's Ochoa, and she played the flute. And there's Chris Hadfield, and he made the first music video in space. And then those guys are doing a collaboration
with somebody on Earth. And there is Coleman. She also brought some fruits to space. And there's Noguchi playing the Rutaki. And Yamazaki playing the Koto. Yeah, there's Petted. He made a didgeridoo in space. And there is McNair on his soprano saxophone. And Mir on her saxophone. And then look at these astronauts and cosmonauts, and they're having a jam session in space. But guess what? We're all in space right now, so every jam session that's ever happened has been in space, so that's kind of cool to think about. Anyway, you can check out this stuff on nasa.gov and this link I provided because it is worth looking at. And while you are at it, please check out that music video that I mentioned, Chris Hadfield's version of Space Oddity. Oh my goodness, we cried so hard doing all this research. It's just very moving. You should check it out. Back to our Westerly schedule program.
I was wondering, so one of my friends who lives in Southern California named Joshua, he is really into space. And he was the one who gave me the question about your return. Now, he read something about how you really get used to microgravity and just, setting a thing next to you and boop, there it stays, right? And so then you because you're floating, so the things are floating that you set down in the air. Now, when you get home, have you ever set something down in the air?
Yeah, a lot of astronauts who fly in space, when they get back, your brain doesn't quite, get it as quickly, and you get back to Earth and you feel really, really heavy, right? You went from floating and moving around, flying effortlessly, and then you get home and you got to think about lifting your head up because your head weighs a lot, and standing up straight, and bottom half of your leg feels like it weighs 100 pounds, and every place you move, you're like, man, now I know why they tell us to get off the couch every day and just move around, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But yeah, so you're so used to things, just everything floating. And there's been a lot of people, I didn't do this, but I watched it happen, where holding like a cup of water and then just let go.
Oh no. The one that I thought about was like, you would get used to, if you needed to go somewhere or get something, that you would just swing up and get it, or move, swing across. So have you ever looked up at the high shelf and just been like, whoa, and then you don't go anywhere and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I remember the first day, I remember that being something I felt a lot. Like when I would, I was laying down in bed and I wanted to get up to go, get up and brush my teeth or go to the bathroom or whatever. And I just felt like it should be a lot easier. Like I should just be able to kind of touch with my finger on the bed and float up and move to the bathroom or move. And no, you had to lift your whole body up out of the bed.
Your muscles are like,
move.
What is going on?
But they figure it out fast too. Yeah, our brains, our bodies are pretty impressive when it comes to adapting to new environments.
It is. That impresses me too. Especially if you have to suddenly drive on the other side of the road. Mm-hmm. You have to be like, okay, now the lines are going to be going by this way. Okay, here we go.
Well, that's interesting to me because, it's like how just used our brains get so used to something one way that we don't even really think about it anymore when we're doing it, right? When I go out and drive now, I don't think about which side of the road I need to be on every day. I'm just like, oh, you go this way, this is the way you do this. Totally. But then when I go visit my husband's family in England, oh my gosh, it's there present with you the whole time. Like, okay, I've got to be on this other side of the road. My steering wheel's not in the right place, and the wall is going by here. It's crazy how active you have to think about it then.
Oh yeah.
Well, and how your brain remembers. Like I remember going back to space the second time, and just floating just felt like it was normal. It was like it was what I was meant to do, and to move and fly and roll and move in 3 dimensions, it all just felt normal. And coming back to Earth, I knew I was going to feel heavier, but I just It was like, okay, I'm going to be heavy for a day or so, and then but your brain figures it out.
You got experience.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. So wait a minute. I gotta wait for Jamie. She's gotta look around. Oh, I've got some joke questions, but we just kind of want to hear what you answer. The kid who gave us these questions, named Gwig, he kind of knew the answer to them.
Okay.
But is it cold in space?
Yes, and it's also hot in space, depending on when we're going around the Earth and whether we're like this, where we're right where the sun is, or where we're out in the shadow. It can be a couple hundred degrees hot or a couple hundred degrees cold, depending on where the sun is.
And we kind of know that because we're in space on a planet, and it's very hot in some places and it's very cold in some places.
Yep.
The sun.
Yep.
Okay, next silly question. Have you seen an alien?
No, but I don't, I didn't see, but I saw a lot of things that surprised me. A lot of things surprised me. One in particular, like watching a shooting star below me, like between my spaceship and Earth, seeing a shooting star. That was like, what is that? And then, you figure out what it is and you want to see another one and make a wish. And of course, you got to wait before that happens again, just like when we look up at the sky. But that was really, really surprising.
So did you get to see it be a meteor and then cross into the atmosphere and be a meteor white, like in the same breath? You watched it do the thing?
I did, because so I at least watched it enter the atmosphere, because I saw this, this light kind of streaking below me. Now, whether it actually made it all the way to Earth to be like a little pebble or rock or something as a meteorite, I don't know. But I definitely was going back in through the atmosphere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Hey, listen, 7 years ago, Jamie, yes, it's me.
Yeah.
Jamie watched a movie called The Overview Effect, and you were in it, and you said some things about seeing Earth from space. And she was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And so she watched it again, and she took notes. And then she wrote a song. And guess what, Nicole? Your words are in one of our songs from 2016.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope I get to hear it sometime.
Sure, I will play it right now.
Okay.
I mean, not really, but in the video.
Okay.
I really will. But I will send it to you.
Yes, please do.
But the part that you said, this dynamic, alive place that you see glowing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like you suddenly see the Earth as a creature?
It really is. I mean, it looks alive. It's always moving. It's always colorful, like all the colors that you imagine Earth to be, that we know Earth to be. And it's just, it glows. It's like this crystal clear, beautiful, round planet against the blackest black you could ever imagine. And then at night, when you see the Earth at night, where you see all these little city lights of where people are on Earth, and then there's storms moving around and the lightning, it's like the flashes of lightning really, I remember thinking immediately, like, wow, that's what I remember in science class when they showed us neurons firing in the brain and our nervous system, and like, oh my gosh, this is it's just wrapping around the planet, and it really, just looked alive.
I've been very struck by how the macro and the micro look so similar.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at the nebula clouds and all that dust swirling around in the colors, it looks so much like pictures of tiny little cameras in your body and things swooshing around. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And I think we should pay attention to those things, right? How all these details, and that's why I always think, I'm like, man, it's true, like awe and wonder are around us everywhere we look, if we really will look. And I might tell you, there's a really cool person, this artist who's also a scientist, who on Instagram, I think he's called the Electron Micronaut. And he does these, like what you're talking about, zooms way in to the tiniest little parts of things. and it looks like you're looking at outer space. Yep, up close.
Look close at my mouth. It looks
gorgeous.
Wow. Hey, that is just so cool. It's kind of like the practical design of all of it, like the bio design, like what Buckminster Fuller said. Like, listen, we don't have to invent how to design something. We can just walk around.
Yep.
If you look on the micro and then you look way out, like cosmically, it's the same patterns and the same fractals and all of that. And so it's just like, whoa.
It is whoa.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about it except that it's so cool.
Well, you know, it's like what I remember experiencing going to space, where it's so complex, right?
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is really complex, the way the universe is formed and the patterns that are there and how we're even surviving on this planet that we're in, and then the tiny little, like, looking down your throat or into the electrons and all that's common in that. And I remember feeling the same way getting to space. It's really a complex thing to lift out of gravity and travel to where you're orbiting the Earth and live there even for a little while and then get home safely, you know, afterwards, and to do the science there. Everything that goes on is really complex. And yet, to me, in the end, when I think about it, it's really all this simple stuff underlying it that was the most important. Like, man, I got to look out the window and realize again something I knew when I was a child. We live on a planet. We're all Earthlings, right? Only border that matters, that thin blue line of atmosphere. And how important, just like Buckminster Fuller said, how important it is for us to recognize our planetary home as our spaceship, and that one of our very most important roles is to learn how to live like crewmates and not passengers, right?
Yes.
Two very different things.
Yes, we have a song about how everything and everyone is a crewmate. All the water, all the trees, all the people, all the animals, everyone who's ever lived before, everyone who's in the future is all one crewmate, and they all belong, and they all have a job, and we need them. So I was thinking, so you're having all these big thoughts up there out of the gravity well, looking down at Earth, and you're having all these big feelings and realizations, and you're with all these people from all these different nations, and you can't see the lines of the nations down there on the planet, and you're just seeing this thing, and you're like, that's everything we've ever known and done right down there, and here we all are up here doing this thing together. And then you said something once that you said, hold on, I got a quote here, just a second. You said peaceful and successful cooperation, peaceful and successful cooperation we have experienced in the extreme environments of space and sea holds the key to the same kind of peaceful and successful cooperation for all of humanity here on Earth. I just think that is so cool. And if we could just shoot everybody up to space who has power to make decisions and be like, listen, do you guys feel differently now? And maybe they would.
I hope they would. I don't know how you can be a human and not feel differently after experiencing something like that. Again, I'd like to think that they don't have to go to space to realize this, but I can tell you every crew in space, I know ours did, floating around the dinner table at night, solving all the problems of the world, right? There on our space station. Every one of us would agree that it would be worthwhile to have the leaders from all of our countries floating with their little heads bouncing off each other, looking back at Earth.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, if only we could do that. And then I think they'd see, like we do, that, how cool is it that we go as this crew, right? That represents more than 15 different countries from around the world, all working as one crew on that space station. And that space station is this machine. It's this mechanical life support system, right? This machine that we built to be able to support our life in space, orbiting Earth. And somehow when we work there together, We do. We wake up every morning and we say, hey, how much CO2 is in our atmosphere? We need to pay attention to that. How much clean drinking water do we have? Well, how's the integrity of our thin metal hull of our spaceship? And hey, are all of my crewmates feeling good today? We do that every day. And we should be doing that same thing right down here on Earth.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming and speaking with us here at Beginnings with Bernice.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you. And we would also like to thank Eric and me and Jamie. We'd like to thank Space for Art for supporting us.
We are very excited to see all the interviews and also to hear and listen to all the songs that we know you created. Cannot wait. Very happy to be partners with you in Space for Art.
Oh my God, we get to be partners with Astronaut. We're so lucky. Mwah!
Beginnings with Bernice is brought to you by Space for Art Foundation.
And it's wrapping me in now. All systems checked, all systems are a go. Countdown at 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. Here we go. Here we go. No, I never thought it would look this way. I see you glowing in that dynamic place, and I